They left my wife at an airport, alone, cold, bruised. The woman who raised our daughter, the woman who gave everything for that family, was discarded like she meant nothing. But they didn't know who they were dealing with. I spent 40 years studying every angle of justice, and when I found out what they'd done, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I built their destruction, brick by brick, law by law. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Timelines. If you've ever been betrayed by family, if you've ever been underestimated, stay until the end of this story and tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Because this one's going to hit home for anyone who believes in karma with a courtroom twist. The call came just after midnight, rain against my study window, the kind that sounds like soft tapping on a coffin lid. I was reading through an old case file, muscle memory from decades on the bench, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hale, this is airport security. We found your wife. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. My wife? Evelyn? Yes, sir. She's shaken up. Looks like she's been here for hours. I didn't even hang up properly. Just grabbed my coat and keys. The drive there was a blur. Rain streaking across the windshield, wipers smearing light into trembling lines. My heart was pounding like a fist on a door that wouldn't open. When I reached the terminal, they were keeping her in one of those small waiting areas near baggage claim. The fluorescent lights were too bright. The air smelled of bleach and coffee. And there she was, Evelyn, my wife of 43 years. Her hands were trembling. Her lip was split. There was a bruise forming on her arm, dark purple against paper white skin. She looked up at me, eyes unfocused, and whispered, "Marcus, they left me." At first, I thought she meant a flight delay, some confusion. But then she said the names, Claire and Devin, our daughter, our son-in-law. My chest tightened, and a cold, hollow space opened in my stomach. What happened? I asked gently, taking her hands in mine. She tried to explain, voice thin and quivering. They said we were flying together to visit the kids. But when I came out of the restroom, they were gone. My phone. They took it. Said they'd handle everything. The attendant who found her, an older man named Lucas, showed me the security footage. I watched it in silence. There was my wife, stepping out of the restroom, looking around for them. And there they were, Claire and Devin, walking briskly toward the exit with her luggage. Devin even smiled at the camera. It was deliberate, cold, calculated. When I asked airport staff to call for medical aid, Evelyn protested weakly. "I don't want to make a scene." That broke me. After everything she'd done, raising Claire alone when I was still struggling through law school, standing by me through every transfer, every campaign, she still didn't want to make a scene. The ER nurse confirmed my worst fear. Evelyn had signs of emotional and physical abuse. Nothing catastrophic, no broken bones, but enough bruising and stress indicators to suggest she'd been handled roughly, maybe grabbed or restrained. When they asked who did this, she looked away. And that told me everything. That night, I sat beside her hospital bed while rain turned to mist outside. Evelyn slept, still trembling in her dreams, and I stared at the ceiling, piecing together what I'd seen, what I knew. Devin was ambitious, reckless. He'd married Claire into comfort, but never earned it. He'd been hinting for months about getting the paperwork in order for my estate, pushing for joint signatures, power of attorney forms. I'd refused. Evelyn, soft-hearted as always, had entertained the idea to keep peace. But now it was clear. They wanted control. And when she refused, when my wife, the woman with a trembling heart but unshakable morals, said no, they punished her. I didn't sleep that night, not a second. And when dawn came through the blinds, pale and gray, I knew I wasn't just going to get justice. I was going to dismantle them. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is loud, messy. What I felt was something quieter, sharper, the kind of focus that only comes to men who've watched justice slip through others' fingers too many times. They thought leaving her at an airport would break her. But they'd just declared war on the wrong man. The next few days were a performance. Claire called, crying, pretending to be concerned. Devon texted polite inquiries. "Hope Evelyn's okay. We were so worried." I saved every message. Evelyn didn't want to believe it. She kept saying, maybe they panicked. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. But misunderstandings don't come with stolen phones, bruises, and bank alerts. Yes, bank alerts. On the second morning after the airport incident, I noticed 2 new login attempts on our joint account, both from a location 2 states away. Both denied because I had 2-factor authentication. They'd tried. They'd failed. But that was their first mistake. I went straight to my banker, an old friend from my courthouse days. We froze every account tied to our names. Then I had Evelyn's phone records subpoenaed under an emergency privacy clause. That's when I saw it. Texts from Devon, urging her to sign a document for convenience. Claimed it would make paying property taxes easier. The file attached, a blank power of attorney form. It hit me like ice water. They hadn't just abandoned her. They were trying to steal her life while she was too scared and confused to resist. That night, while Evelyn slept, I sat at my desk scrolling through the recovered emails, the messages, the bank drafts Devon had deleted but left traces of in his metadata. He'd planned this for months, set up fake invoices, forged signatures. He even had a second mortgage application under review, with my wife's name attached. Every line, every forged initial, was another nail in his coffin. And Claire? She wasn't innocent. Her emails to Devon were colder than his. "Mom's memory is slipping," she'd written. "If we wait too long, Dad will lock everything down legally. We have to move now." It wasn't confusion. It was strategy. I remember whispering out loud to no one, "My own daughter." It didn't sound real. That's when Evelyn woke and saw me at the desk, hands shaking over the keyboard. "Marcus," she whispered, "what are you doing?" "Protecting us," I said. But she looked at me like she already knew what that meant. She knew me too well. The next morning, I made 3 phone calls. 1 to a banker, 1 to a private investigator, and 1 to an old friend in the district attorney's office. If Devon thought he could outmaneuver me in the gray areas of legality, he was about to learn what a man who wrote the rules could do when pushed too far. The morning after those 3 calls, I woke up feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. That razor-edged calm that comes before you pronounce a verdict. Evelyn was still resting, her color returning little by little, the bruises fading. She didn't know what I was about to do, and maybe that was for the best, because the kind of justice I had in mind, it wasn't about the courtroom anymore. It was about teaching them the meaning of consequence. Step 1. Information. The private investigator, a woman named Harriet who used to work financial crimes for the Bureau, started her work fast. She traced every one of Devon's transactions from the past 6 months. Within a week, she'd compiled a spreadsheet thicker than a phone book, offshore accounts, gambling debts, and 3 cash advances totaling more than $60,000. Every debt tied back to a single alias, D. Monroe, Devon's consulting name. He'd been using our family's trust fund as leverage for loans he couldn't possibly repay. And to cover his tracks, he'd been preparing to liquidate assets that weren't his. Step 2. Leverage. The banker, Arthur, helped me set up an internal watch flag on every transaction Devon tried to process. We weren't just freezing the money. We were watching him panic. By the second week, his calls started coming in. Blocked numbers. Voicemails that began polite and turned desperate. Marcus, hey, we just need to talk this out, man. Claire's worried. Let's all sit down. Click. The next one. You're overreacting. Mom's confused. You're scaring her. Click. And then finally, if you don't fix this, I swear I'll... Click. I didn't need to hear the rest. Step 3. Legal foundation. I drafted a motion, not as a judge, but as a citizen, requesting emergency protection for Evelyn under elder abuse statutes. I had her medical report, time-stamped airport security footage, and text evidence, all of it airtight. When the investigator handed me the last piece, a series of Uber logs showing Devon and Claire's route from the airport directly to a notary's office, I knew I had them dead to rights. That's when I sent my first letter, typed on official stationery, just enough legal phrasing to twist the knife. You will return every penny. Terminate any applications or claims under my or my wife's name, and appear for a supervised mediation within 7 days. Failure to do so will initiate both criminal and civil proceedings. M.H. 3 days later, Claire called. Her voice trembled, part fear, part defiance. Dad, you're being unfair. Devon said this is a misunderstanding. We were helping Mom get her affairs sorted. She's been forgetful. Forgetful? I said quietly. Claire, your mother remembered every time you scraped your knee at 6 years old. Every Christmas gift, every teacher's name, every song you sang in the school choir. Don't you dare call her forgetful to excuse theft. She was silent for a moment. Then she broke. Devon said you'd take it all if we didn't act fast, that you'd cut us out. And there it was, the real wound. Not greed, fear of being left behind. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just said, you left your mother at an airport to prove your loyalty to a liar. I'm not sure there's a punishment strong enough for that. Then I hung up. The laws of revenge. In court, I'd always believed in proportionality. The punishment must fit the crime. But this wasn't court. This was personal. So I built my revenge like a prosecutor crafts a case. Layered, patient, unassailable. Harriet found that Devon had used a fake notary to validate his documents. The same notary had signed off on 5 other questionable transfers. With a single call to my contact at the DA's office, those documents became evidence in an open fraud investigation. And because I'd pre-registered Evelyn's medical report under elder abuse, everything Devon did now carried enhanced penalties. He'd thought he was clever. He didn't realize that when you prey on the vulnerable, the law stops being gray. It turns black and white. The cracks begin to show. By week 3, Devon's job suspended him pending reputational review. Claire's friends stopped calling. The same social circle that once bragged about their high-powered family now whispered behind their backs. I'd sent anonymous tips to a few local reporters, factual, verified, nothing more. Business consultant under investigation for elder fraud. No names. Just enough for people to start connecting dots. The community did the rest. Meanwhile, Evelyn began to recover. She started attending therapy sessions I quietly arranged, and the light in her eyes returned. She didn't ask what I was doing. But sometimes she'd look at me across the kitchen table and say softly, "Don't lose yourself over them, Marcus." I'd smile. "Just balancing the scales, Evie." But the truth was, I'd already crossed that invisible line. And I wasn't stopping until Devon learned what irreversible truly meant. The first move was done. Now it was time for the checkmate. Because when you dismantle someone legally, you don't just take their money. You take their name, their sleep, their safety. And when I found out Devon was planning to destroy evidence, I made sure he'd be caught in the act. It happened on a Thursday night. Harriet tipped me off that Devon had been seen at the notary's office after hours, carrying a gym bag. The same notary whose signature had appeared on the forged forms. I called in a favor to an old colleague in airport security. Same team that found Evelyn that night. We arranged a sting. Cameras, silent alarms, everything. Devon thought he was clever, that he could erase what tied him to the fraud. But when the red and blue lights flickered through the office windows, he froze. Caught mid-motion with a paper shredder running and files spilling from his bag. They arrested him for evidence tampering, breaking and entering, and obstruction. When I got the call, I didn't cheer. I just closed my eyes and whispered, "It's done." The trial. The courtroom smelled like old paper and anxiety. Claire sat 2 rows behind Devon, pale, trembling, refusing to meet my gaze. Evelyn was beside me, her hands folded tightly, her wedding ring gleaming under the overhead light. Devon's lawyer tried every angle, claimed Evelyn was confused, claimed documents were mistakes, claimed he was just trying to help. But the evidence was surgical. Bank transfers, forensic handwriting analysis proving forgery, security footage of him carrying documents out of the notary's office. And the final blow, an audio recording from his own call, threatening me. When the jury returned, it took them less than an hour. Guilty, on all counts. The sentence Devon didn't go to prison. His lawyer negotiated probation in exchange for full restitution and forfeiture of all stolen assets. But what he lost was far worse. He was publicly listed for financial fraud, his license revoked, every client gone, every reputation burned. Claire filed for divorce within 2 months. Part of me wanted to hate her still. But when she showed up on our doorstep, holding her 2 children, eyes swollen from crying, Evelyn just opened the door and said, "Come in." I stayed silent, watched her from across the living room as she knelt by her mother's chair and whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't know he'd go that far." Maybe she believed that, maybe not. But when Evelyn's hands touched her hair gently, I knew forgiveness was her choice, not mine. The aftermath. Evelyn began volunteering at a local advocacy center for elder abuse victims. I used my connections to help establish a legal defense fund for seniors caught in similar traps. And every so often I'd get a call, someone asking if I could advise quietly on a case where a son or daughter had taken advantage of their parents. Each time, I said yes. Because revenge isn't just about destruction. It's about prevention. One evening, months later, I sat on our porch watching the sun go down. Evelyn came out with 2 cups of tea. She said, "Do you think they learned anything?" I sipped my tea and said, "The law taught them what I couldn't." She smiled faintly. "You still believe in justice." I looked out toward the horizon. Always have. Just not always in court. Sometimes people think revenge is loud, a gunshot, a scream, a punch. But real revenge? It's quiet. It's a signature on a legal form that locks your enemy out of everything they thought they controlled. It's a community whispering their name with disgust. It's watching them realize that mercy was their last lifeline, and they cut it themselves. They left my wife at an airport, but I made sure they never found their way home again. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments. Was I right to take it this far, or should I have just walked away? And if you've ever been betrayed by family, let me know. How did you move on? Don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of justice, karma, and the darkness people bring upon themselves.